Hello there, Shummers, and welcome to one of the worst bundles of all time in World Tank Blitz. And there's a lot of those, aren't they? Now, it is the T-34 shielded. Now, you could have gotten this vehicle for free a year ago or something like that, and now if you want it, you have to pay 4,000 gold for a Tier 5. So, obviously that's dumb, because of it, you could have gotten it for free a long time ago, and why would you now ever buy this thing? Because it's essentially useless. Credit making at Tier 5 isn't a thing for most people, and if you want to spend that amount of gold, you can get a Tier 7 like a T26 Eagle or a Type 62 for cheaper. So there's absolutely zero reason to ever buy this vehicle. However, why am I playing it? Because I want to talk a bit more about how do you find out whether a bundle is good or not. And first of all, I want to say as well, because it doesn't deserve its own video, the new reaction thing that WoTB is introducing. That's dumb as well. Like, I mean, the game's clearly aimed at 12-year-olds that steal their mom's wallet with those emoji reactions and whatever. But, I mean, I'm definitely not going to use them. It's dumb. But, and the reports probably still aren't going to do anything. So, let's just ignore that. Now, T-34 shielded. It exists. That's about what is important about this vehicle. As you already see, 160 alpha damage, 1.4k DPM. It has some armor, obviously not much because this is Tier 5. So overall, if you get this thing for free, fine, but you should never ever pay for this thing because it's nothing special. It's not even anything good. But it's good though. It's liking and subscribing. Would appreciate that. So, at this point, how do you find out whether a bundle is good or not? There are three main things that you have to consider before you even think about buying it. That is, do I want the tank? Can I afford the tank? And is the tank for me? That's the first three questions, obviously, because if you always only play heavy tanks, there is no point in buying a Tank Destroyer Premium, even if that Tank Destroyer Premium may be a good vehicle, for example. Then after you've established that you can afford it, that you want it, and it's a tank of a type that you've already played before, ideally, obviously, because you should never buy a premium tank of a type that you aren't experienced in, because that way, you know, it's a very easy way to jump to Tier 8 and then suck. So that is not great. And then ideally, you always want to have a Tier 8 premium tank. If you can't get a Tier 8 premium tank, you still get a Tier 8 premium tank, because if you get a Tier 7, it might be cheaper, but you're also going to lose credits over time because you're going to do less damage, you're going to do less credit coefficient. You will be off a lot worse than if you simply just get a Tier 8. And the cheapest one is the IS-5 for 1.5k gold. You can get that in the clan supply if you're a free-to-play player, right? So at that point, that's a pretty solid baseline there already with that vehicle. Now, obviously, I'm going to die here, but I don't really care. Just ignore the background footage. Obviously, you want to have a tank that's also good. You know, that is not that hard to find out. A tank with 180 millimeters of penetration on the standard rounds is not a good premium tank. Looking at you, Tier 8 mediums, that's never going to be a good premium tank, for example. Also, it's never going to be a good premium tank if it's overpriced. If you, I don't know, pay 10,000 or 15,000 gold for a miserable tank destroyer like a CDA, that's also bad. Obviously, no Tier 8 is ever worth more than 10,000 gold. That's obviously something you should also keep in mind. If it's sold for more than 10k, you're just overpaying for no reason. And the reason is, well, there is a reason, that's Wargaming being greedy. And I'm going to die, but, yeah. Or not. So no Tier 8 is worth more than 10k, ever. That is something you have to keep in mind. And the problem is then, you know, once you've established, alright, it's playable, it makes creds, it's a Tier 8. And you find out whether it's good. Well, you have tanks like the T-482, the MX M449, the Chimera. Those are must-haves. Those are tanks that if they're in shop and you can afford them and you want a premium tank, those are the ones that you get. And obviously then you have those that are bad, like an i6 in 2022, which is just, why the hell would you buy that? And one of the best, like, discount bundles is always like T-34 for 5.5k gold. That's pretty much one of the best offers you can do. High penetration, good turret armor, 5.5k gold. You get a month of premium for it as well, and 500k creds. So that is a pretty good deal there. Why would you, like, buy a T-44 100 that isn't gonna do anything for you? That's that. And obviously, you also have to know as I already said, you have to know whether you can play the tank or not. There is no point in getting a medium tank if you've never played a medium tank. Get a tank destroyer if you don't like tank destroyers, obviously. That's why I very rarely recommend tanks or premium tanks, because obviously there are so many factors involved, and this same is true for tech trivia, because, well, you can't just... Most of the time, it isn't just black and white. This is great, this is shit. Those are very rare cases where that applies. Most of the tanks is like, yeah, they can do that, but yeah, basically. So it's relatively difficult, obviously, and to review a tank is quite hard as well, and people are always gonna disagree. Sometimes the monkeys will fight. That is how it goes. But overall, I think it's also important that you figure out yourself what type of tank you want and what type of tank you can afford. And obviously, the TF4A2 was in the shop a couple of weeks ago. That is the best deal you could have gotten, pretty much, at that point, in terms of performance to price. If you didn't get that, then there is nothing else to get, because otherwise you just overpay for garbage. Like this one, which is, I mean, it's a mediocre tank that has no place ever being sold for anything that isn't, well, essentially free, like 500 gold at best. So be careful out there. Wargaming wants to make money off you. That's the only thing they care about. Wargaming wants your money. They're not gonna... It always says best deal, hot, but it doesn't matter. They're lying to you to make money. Alright? There are only very few good bundles that are actually worth it in this game. There are a lot of them, but very few are actually worth it. There's no point in collecting a lot of garbage premiums that you'll never play. Hey, I know. So, yeah. Be careful in what you buy, and don't fall for the marketing either. And don't buy crates, most importantly. Crates are always going to return you a negative value no matter what you do. So, with that said, don't buy this tank, obviously, and be careful. And think about what you're doing. Don't just always rely on reviews. Just think for yourself. Am I gonna be happy with this purchase after I made it? Am I gonna be happy with this tank in the future? Because obviously, if you now go in the shop and be like, huh, there's a 111 here. It's cheap. I buy. And then you end up with an absolutely miserable tank that is absolute garbage, and that's gonna like die and settle on dust in the garage. You just wasted all your gold, right? So, yeah, think about the vehicles. Also review the stats, you know? Just look at them. It's not that hard. Just use Blitz stars, compare the tanks. You know, it's better to spend 5 minutes figuring out whether to buy it or not than to, like, waste your money and then have to spend an hour earning that money back. Speaking of money, if you want to support the channel, the join button's down there. And as always, thank you very much for watching. See you for the next one. Goodbye.